to deal with these guys decisively. Like I said, we know where these guys are. We know where they live. We know their parents.
You know them as a government?
Of course we do. They live with the same community we live.
So why is it difficult to get them?
That is the $1 million question that I should ask you.
We are trying to understand, for those of us who are now conversant with Zamfara, have never been there, and we hear you as a chief security officer speak tonight to say you know these people, but yet you can't get them. It's a head scratcher.
It is something that we are trying to all put our heads together. That is why, from what I can do as a governor, to have this CPG as a first line of defense.
Like, there's some certain things you will hear in Nigeria, you begin to ask yourself, is Nigeria truly a country? Anyway, this is not surprising because we have been saying it, that there's no way Nigeria government will tell Nigerians that they're unaware of the insecurity that is going on in Nigeria. My people, this is a governor from Zamfara state. According to him, he said that they are very aware of the people that is involved in this banditry. Like, they know their parents, they know where they live, but they cannot do anything because the power is not given to them to act. That they need to receive order from federal government before they can act. That if the power is given to him as a governor, that within a short while he's going to crush these people, like he's going to dismantle them, that he's going to make sure that there's nothing like banditry in Zamfara state. This to show you that yes, federal government, they are very aware of the insecurity that is going on in Nigeria. My people, this is really, really heartbreaking. Let me allow you guys to listen and hear everything this man said here in detail. But before then, please, if today is your first time, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share it as well.
Well, let me begin by asking you, Mr. Governor, what is the current situation in Zamfara state? For those of us who have not been to Zamfara, and as the chief security officer of the state, what is Zamfara dealing with? It's been a focal point in Nigeria when it comes to security crisis for many years. But what exactly are you dealing with?
Well, let me start by admitting the fact that the state has been in this situation for the past 13 years. It is something that we inherited. And part of what we did, or what we're doing right now, is to make sure we put so much effort. And priority has always been our concern. That was the reason why, when I came on board, I formed the Community Protection Guard that is called CPG. And the whole essence of this is to complement the effort of the conventional security in terms of combating this menace that we're facing in the state. And I will say that they're doing very well in terms of assisting the conventional security because they understand the trend much better than the conventional security. So they provide the lead. And that is what is happening right now. And so far, we've seen a lot of success. The story is changing. In the past, if you hear anything about Zamfara, you realize that 200 people, 300 people are being killed. But right now, it's not the case. There has been some spontaneous attack here and there, but not the way it used to be in the past. So we're making progress.
But how much of a progress really are you making? Because we still hear of, bandits making claims, asking people for levies before they can go to the farms, attacks here and there. So really, how much of a success would you say you have recorded with this local security you've put in place?
Some weeks back, I went around all the local government in the states, and I've seen the level of agricultural development this time around, which wasn't the case in the past. So that is to show you that something is being done. And that is why people now have the ability to go to their farms and farm. That is ongoing. And of course, it's a state that has been in this situation, like I said, for the past 13 years. So there will always be issues here and there, saying all sort of things. And remember also, some are just for negative reason, not for the positive aspects. Because some would rather see everything negative about security so that they can use that against you. But the reality is we are making significant progress. If you have time, I will take you around the state for you to go and see. They said seeing is believing. So yes, we're making progress.
Indeed. So, I mean, what have you been able to attribute to this success recorded by the local security you've put in place that the conventional security has not been able to do for the past 13 years? What are they doing differently?
First of all, there's the political will on my own part as a governor. And I've taken security as one of the major issue, number one, under my administration, which was the reason why we formed the CPG. And also, we're spending so much to make sure we have intelligence information in terms of movement of these people, which is being provided by the locals. And there's so much community awareness now for people to be able to report any suspicious movement by these people. And it's making things much easier than the way things used to be. So the political will is number one. And that is why we're making this significant progress. Security is key to everything, without which there'll be no meaningful development. That is the difference.
Great. And, you know, as I recall, this was set up about 7 months ago.
Absolutely.
Less than a year.
Yeah.
But it has also had its own challenges. I mean, you've had to replace the commandant. You've had 2 commandants in the space of 7 months. So there have been controversies with even the local security.
You know, you can never have a perfect system, but along the line, there will always be challenges. The essence is to learn from those challenges. If we realize in the course of doing this, there are issues here and there, then we need to take reactive measures in order to guard against future occurrence of such challenges. That was the reason why we had to replace some. If there's anybody with questionable character in the course of doing their job, of course, it's our duty to make sure we take care of that situation. That is why you see some of these changes, and it's ongoing.
Okay, but the story that was out there with the change of the commandant was that he raised some concerns and accusations that the outfit is not being equipped and is not being funded to fight the war you have set it up for. And then he was changed a couple of weeks after.
That is not true. If you had listened to the police when he was arrested and interrogated, it was a different story. What we found out was that he was fully involved in that operation in murder. The records are there. You can get this information from the Commissioner of Police in Zamfara State. So it's not true.
Great. Mr. Governor, I'd like to take you back to my first question when I asked you about what your state was actually dealing with. Because we hear banditry in Zamfara in the northwest of Nigeria. But by our understanding, and the simplest definition of banditry, involves groups of armed thieves. So these are thieves with just arms. Yet the challenge seems, grave, that the northwest, and particularly Zamfara State, is not able to deal with group of thieves who have arms. So do you feel the narrative is correct to say what you're dealing with in your state is banditry, or is it something more grave than that?
Well, I mean, it all depends on classification. You can call them bandits, you can call them thieves, you can call them any name. But my understanding is what will be the reason for these banditry activities. That's number one. 2, if you talk about Niger Delta, I will say yes, there's an economic reason why people are fighting to get certain things. If you look at Boko Haram, you will say that it's a religious issue because they believe in their faith and therefore they want to defend their faith. What is the reason in Zamfara? We are the same people, 99.9% same religion. So what is the reason? What are they fighting for? This is the question.
Have you been able to find an answer to that question?
That is still what we're trying to do, because I cannot understand why. And imagine if today they're going after government officials to say, okay, they have grievances with government officials. but they kill innocent people that barely even eat 1 square meal in a day. What could have been the reason? That must be crazy. And that is still what we're trying to find out. And to deal with that is you need to deal with these people decisively.
And in taking that decisive measures, let's talk about the role of the federal government in all of this, because so far it's been your effort we've talked about. How much of an influence does the federal government have in, or has in, fighting this war with you in Zamfara state? What's been the involvement of the federal government?
Security situation is not just for Zamfara. It's across all the northern part. However, Zamfara play a dominant role in terms of the banditry because this is where they hibernate. They move from Zamfara to Katsina, Niger, Kaduna, Sokoto, and so on and so forth. And you know, it's the responsibility of federal government to provide safety of people, lives and property, which is the security forces that include the military, the police, as well as civil defense. Yeah, they're doing their best. However, there's a need to do more to deal with these guys decisively. Like I said, we know where these guys are. We know where they live. We know their parents.
You know them as a government.
Of course we do. They live with the same community we live.
So why is it difficult to get them?
That is the $1 million question that I should ask you.
We are trying to understand, for those of us who are now conversant with Zamfara, have never been there, and we hear you as a chief security officer speak tonight to say, you know these people, but yet you can't get them. It's a head scratcher.
It is something that we are trying to all put our heads together. That is why, from what I can do as a governor, to have this CPG as a first line of defense. Of course, military are there, police are there, as well as civil defense, but they are not under my control. They are under the control of federal government, and they are doing their best. Like I said also, our security forces have the ability to crush these guys.
But they are not.
They're trying their best.
Trying their best.
Like what happened within the last 3 days when one of the major kingpin, Halilu Sububu, was killed. It is a combination of both military as well as the CPG and the community that made it possible. And I commend them for that.
Okay, I wanted to take you back to one of the questions you raised tonight about what is fueling this in Zamfara, because you seem to say, it doesn't look like there's a religion undertone to it. The people they kill are also poor, so they're
very poor,
very
for that
poor.
matter.
So there is no
barely surviving.
To go after them. But there's a question of the mining, the natural resources in Zamfara state. Don't you think that is enough to fuel all of this in Zamfara state? And I wanted you to answer if the ban placed by the federal government is still in place on mining in your state.
The ban has been in place since 2018, so it's nothing new. I also met it. What I did on my own part is to also make sure the traditional institution do not give this consent form or consent letter for any mining activity in Zamfara state. And it's one reason why we had to issue an executive order that will stop giving out consent letters on mining by traditional rulers. Now, yes, there is a kind of correlation between insecurity and mining. And that's the reason why we're making conscious effort to have a clear understanding between the state and the federal government on what will be the best way to go about it. Of course, it's about revenue as far as I'm concerned. If we're able to get it together and make it functional, that means there's an additional revenue that will be coming to state government, which will be used in making some significant projects. that will be for the benefit of our people. And I'm happy there's that synergy now between the state and the federal government in terms of mining activities on what will be the way forward. We're trying to fine-tune the whole thing.
Okay, so if I understand you, this ban on mining that has been in place hasn't really shifted the needle in terms of the nexus between mining or illegal mining and security in the state.
What I'm hearing is that some of the bandits are also engaged in some mining activities. For example, the guy that was killed 3 days ago, the Halilu Subu. But the rest are just artisanal miners, so to say. So it is something, like I say, we're trying to fine tune to understand what is really happening and what would be the best way to make it effective and functional, so that in the long run, there will be revenue coming to both federal and the state government. And it's ongoing.
Okay. For those who don't understand how our constitution works and the power sharing formula of the exclusive, the concurrent lists and all of that, as to why the governor and the chief security officer of the state seems powerless. Let me ask you, if the reverse were the case, if you had the powers as the governor of Zamfara state, what would you do differently?
What I will do differently is to go in there and crush these guys within the shortest possible time, because they are under my command. But right now they're not under my command. So I have to rely on federal government to give instructions. And that is why this collaboration between the state and federal government is important. And for now, it's kind of seamless. And this is one of the reasons why we're able to get this guy and kill him 3 days ago. So my prayer now is to sustain this effort. If we're able to sustain and take the war to them, not wait until when they are attacked, I think within the shortest possible time, it will be a different story.
Interesting. Let's talk about more efforts. There have been previous efforts to negotiate with bandits in the past. Previous administrations across various parties and various states had tried it.
Did it work?
Well, it appeared.
Was there any difference?
But there was a
Was there
channel.
any significant changes?
Those are valid questions, but it did happen.
I'm asking you.
Well, we heard stories of how they failed, but initially they were set up. So the question is...
That is the reason why I said, for me,
Yes.
I will not negotiate with a bandit.
Great. Mr. Governor, let me just ask you the question, because
Yes.
I was laying a background to it. That
Okay.
It's been one of the options that some governments have explored. And you made the headlines late last year when you accused the federal government of negotiating with bandits in your state without your knowledge. I believe the phrase you used was clandestine negotiations. So they do exist. Why don't you want to explore that? Is it because they have failed in the past, as you have highlighted?
Adesha, this is not the first time we heard of such understanding or negotiation, to call it, between federal government or even the state government and the bandits. The question is, did that yield any results? Why didn't the killings stop? That's the question. So that means something fundamental is wrong. And if you realize something is wrong, then you need to really change your tactics. And that is why from day one I said, I will not negotiate with any bandit. The only condition that I will is when they lay their arms with a very clear term without any condition attached to it.
How much of that have you seen? Has it worked either?
For me, as a layman, what I believe is you don't negotiate at the point of weakness. You only negotiate at the point of strength. And that is the only way these people understand you're serious and you're committed. and you have spiro power, it's like you're just making them much more important than the people that are being killed. And that is unfair. Why would you go and negotiate with somebody who is killing innocent people? It doesn't make sense. And like you rightly said, as a chief security officer of a state, why would someone come into my state with my knowledge to negotiate with these people? Is that fair? I should be the first point of contact. Whatever it is, let's sit down, agree, and discuss. At least I have an idea. And I can tell them exactly what it is, because I live with these people day and night. Having sleepless nights, phone calls every day. X is being attacked. People are being kidnapped. So,
did the federal government tell you why they took that decision without your knowledge? Did they admit it?
We had series of meetings, and we came to a common understanding. And so far, it is going. And that is why we insist on that synergy between states and federal government. So far, so good. And my prayer is it should be sustained so that we can get to the end of this banditry. These are just few people terrorizing people. You think they are more powerful than the state?
At this point, it does look like so.
I don't think so. We are ready, we are committed, and we'll come to the end of banditry in Zamfara State, northern Nigeria, as well as Nigeria in general.
That is reassuring, and we really do hope that that comes to fruition.
Absolutely.
And I think every Nigerian...
We've started doing that.
We really hope for that.
And it will be sustained.
Indeed. Well, speaking about clandestine operations or negotiations, very recently there was a letter allegedly signed by your secretary to the state government. It went viral. It reportedly requested a sum of about 1.3 billion naira, I recall, for settlements with some bandit kingpins, for you to be able to carry out activities in the state. Well, your government came out very quickly to deny that. But where did that letter originate from? I mean, it's a couple of weeks after. Have you been able to identify where it came from and who was behind it?
First of all, it was a very, very big mischief.
Mischief?
By political opponents to paint Zamfara State Governor Dodolal as a bad guy. I worked for more than 30 years in my life. I have experience in governance. There is no way any right-thinking person will sit down and write that kind of memo, knowing that someday somebody will come and look at that memo. And I'll be so stupid enough to sit down and write names of all the bandits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bandits, to give them money. My stand has always been clear to whoever cares to listen. I do not, and I will not negotiate with bandits. If you look at the heading of that letter, it says Northwest Governors Meeting in Katsina State. This is something that took place 3 months ago. If you look at the body of the letter, it's asking for money. And there are two parts of that letter. One for the bandit, one for some journalist.
Yes.
Would I be stupid enough, even if I'm going to bribe you as a journalist, for example, to write down Adeswa, X amount of money? Does it make sense to you? That is number one. Number two, I challenge anybody. The way the letter was addressed, HC, which means Honorable Commissioner Finance, go and check all the memos from 29th of May 2023 to date. if there's any of such memo that I've addressed my commissioner, please, I'll give you a lot of money as a proof.
Okay, because we do not want to bet and I don't want to collect your money. But
So
let
it's
me
mischief.
mischief.
And also to answer you, you know, it's a world of technology. It's so easy to find any information. And we're able to trace down the IP address of that.
So you
memo.
do have those
Yeah.
behind it.
We and
Who was behind it?
no, I won't tell you because there's a legal process.
Has the person been arrested? Was it one individual?
Well,
Was it a group of people?
we've communicated to the IG, DSS, NIA with the full information as to who is responsible. So we're waiting, and the legal people will follow to make sure that person is brought to justice. So it will be a deterrent against such mischief.
Is this someone in
They're not
politics?
even
Someone in
careful.
your state?
You know, they're so narrow-minded, even the way the whole thing was crafted.
Was it someone in your state, Mr. Governor?
Well, Adesra, when the case is out, you'll know. We'll make it public.
Okay, we'll keep our fingers crossed. But for some of our viewers that are watching and who have heard you say, you know, you would not be stupid enough to write or sign a memo, they might interpret that as to say you don't leave trails. So are there clandestine negotiations or operations you do without writing and having to sign? I just wanted to
I'm much
clarify
more
that.
intelligent to be able to handle my memos.
So you do have memos like that, but you just don't sign.
There's nothing that is hidden. After all, it's for public consumption. That is why I said, go to Zamfara. You have a correspondent in Zamfara.
Yes, we do.
Can you tell that person tomorrow to go to Minister of Finance and look at all the memos, the way we write memos? If there's any of such memo, I'll give that person 20 million naira tomorrow.
Okay, Mr. Governor, you do have a lot of money you want to give out.
Yeah, well, I can sacrifice that money.
So you can
at least.
sacrifice it.
So
Great.
as to bring justice and fairness to people.
Great.
My people, how can you negotiate with people that are killing innocent people? This is indeed a 1 million question. Like if you listen to this governor of Zamfara, like this man really want to tackle the insecurity that is happening in that state, but it's as if he's in a tight corner, like his hands are tight, he cannot even act. Just as he said that he needs instruction from federal government before he can act. This to show you that indeed, federal government, they are aware of the insecurity that is going on in Nigeria. So my people, that is it. As I bring this update to you guys. I don't know what you think, which I would love you guys to leave your thoughts in the comment section as always. Please, if today is your first time, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share it as well. Thanks so much for doing so. I will see you guys in my next update. Goodbye for now.
Welcome to Chamber News TV.